Healing Not Healed, where we will talk about all things mental health and holistic wellness in a very transparent and culturally competent space. I don't know if you can hear that, but the birds are chirping. I hear dogs barking, the wind is blowing. That means summer is coming. And we outside. Speaking of, right? When we hear summer's coming, we hear about all the plans we want to make, all the things you want to do, and we're going to be outside and we're going to be doing this. You know how I talked about in my first video about community and how you have all these community events and brunches and things that people do together and still yet feel a sense of loneliness and emptiness despite being surrounded by people? That brings me back to the conversation of community. When people say community, they often mean co-regulation. So there's been several conversations about people wanting community and desiring community, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit more because, yeah, we're going into the season of everybody's making plans and everybody's doing things together in the sense of we're all in the same shared space, but people are still feeling very isolated and lonely without the sense of community despite being around people. I think people conflate community with co-regulation, and I'm here to explain the difference between the two. So what is co-regulation? Co-regulation is the process of two or more people mutually experiencing or influencing each other's emotions or behaviors. You see that a lot with small children who often seek their mother for consoling. Maybe they, had a distressing moment. They go to their mom. Their mom helps them co-regulate. You see that with support animals. People use their support animals to help them regulate their own emotions. You can do that with a coworker. You can do that with a friend. You can do that with a family member. You can do that with just about anybody that you vent to. However, the subtle difference is trying to help support manage those emotions. There's something very therapeutic and cathartic about venting. And so some people would rather vent to their friends or family than go to therapy. And that's a whole nother conversation. They want to share the emotional labor and the mental labor with someone of their problems, forgetting that community also includes and requires shared values, service, action, integrity, humility, follow through. Even when things aren't convenient, even when things are hard, people struggle with community because how they see community and what they value in community is different. When we talk about community by definition is the fellowship of others of shared interests and attitude and goals. So when you're trying to establish a goal, what do? You create a plan. And what that looks like in relationships is communicating what that plan is. What is the goal of that relationship? Discerning whether that relationship is transactional or transformational. You have work relationships, typically transactional. You have friendships, sometimes transformational. However, some people are more transactional than they are transformative. And that is the difference. Not all people need to receive something, but intrinsically, we feel good about helping others. And so even those who say they give and expect nothing in return, there is still a sense of fulfillment. When I was in college, I had a link card or SNAP benefits, depending upon what state you're in. And the thing about it is this impression that you do nothing to get something. And I was a full-time student working 20 hours a week with 18-hour credits. So yes, I still needed a link card. With the benefits that I got, I would cook Sunday dinners and invite my friends over and just make this big meal. And they're like, what are you cooking all this for? For y'all, I had more than enough food and I wasn't going to sit there and eat it all. My dream has always been kind of to want to be that hub, to have a sense of community, having people over. And I just love entertaining. I love seeing people happy. And so that was the thing. Even more recently, when I moved to this area, and I was just so excited about hosting. It was a bit heartbreaking in a sense of where I had to understand better that, again, what I valued isn't the same thing that other people value. Some think of community as a physical space, a physical city. Some think of community as the people within that city. And then there's the culture, the norms, the values. Because not everyone's goals and values are the same, we project our expectations of what that community looks like onto people without identifying the plan or communicating how to accomplish that goal. So for me, I had to redefine what community looked like for me, giving my physical location, the people within that community, and the shared interests and goals of myself and those around me. So for me, I live an hour, a little bit over an hour away from where I was born and raised. And I moved after college because of a job and my prior marriage and the cost of living. Major part on the cost of living. So I hear all the time, oh, you should move back, you should move back, you should move back, while also hearing how expensive it is. So given that information, and as my community being aware of how expensive it is, you want me to conveniently relocate myself to make myself more accessible to you. And for me, I had to assess, was it worth moving back in order to have this community, right? But I'm a very observant person. And for me, community on my values of reliability, dependability, integrity, and consistency, I don't see that where I physically live. So why would I sacrifice and move and pay more bills for you still not to show up? So self-awareness, I realized that I was often getting triggered, offended, upset, agitated about feeling as though people did not value me as much as I valued them, because for me, driving back and forth was just a sacrifice of maintaining the relationship that I wanted. However, I did have to notice that that wasn't reciprocated or valued the same. I drove an hour to work for 3 years back and forth one way by choice, because that was the sacrifice I was willing to make for that job. And that was a conscious decision that I made for that job. But I realized over time, for doing that 3 years, that the drive really wasn't that bad, right? Like over time, it just really wasn't that bad, but it was something that I got used to. And I realized, like, people that have complained about the drive haven't really done it that often enough to get used to it. So in my mind, I had to wrap around all of the excuses, because I've lived in this location almost 10 years. I had to conceptualize all the excuses and things I was hearing of, like, they're just not into you, bro. They're just not into you. So instead of being continuously triggered by that, I recognize that what I value in community, I need to find in other people that value it the same. I learned to pay attention to how people navigate other relationships outside of the relationship that we've created. And so, and women struggle with this bad of going out of their way for a man. If I see you hop on a train, plane, or bus for a man, and you don't want to come and see me, I just note that. And it's not a hateful, I don't like a person type of situation. It really just a matter of, I know that I am not as valuable. And that's no shade to me. I just know I'm not as valuable in that person's life, right? And I assess and readjust. It's not personal. Trust and connection is developed through vulnerability. Vulnerability is trusting that someone is going to do what they said they're going to do. They're going to be considerate of your feelings. They're going to be consistent as possible. And they're going to communicate and take accountability when they can't do what they said they're going to do. But I often feel like I just need to be transparent, and there's no harm in being transparent and communicating when I can and cannot do something, because I know how it feels to leave people hanging. And I know that probably, again, stems from like abandonment issues and things like that. And so I communicate. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I don't, I'm going to explain why I don't. And it can be as simple as, I don't feel like it. I will tell you, I am not in the mood. But I am consciously aware that, okay, this was my gimme. I'm going to show up next time because I value this relationship. So a lot of co-regulating is just us sharing our feelings, of course, and there is vulnerability and trust that is established on an emotional level. However, there's also this sense of reliability and dependability in the sense of community. Community is, if I get a flat tire, can I depend on you? Can I call you? If I needed a ride from the doctor's office or from the hospital, can I call you? Would you sit in the waiting room with me? If I got bad news, could you sit in silence with me? If I was sick, would you bring me medicine? Would you make me soup? To me, community is being thoughtful, being considerate, and going out of your way, even, like I said, when things aren't easy, fun, and glamorous. I think for me and my sense of community, I'm past the Instagrammable moments. Not that I don't want an Instagrammable moment and party and brunch and have fun, but that's not what I value in community. I value people that show up. I value people that make the hard decisions. I value the people that are okay with being uncomfortable. I value those that say what's on their mind. I value those that want to be present and actively present. That's where I think values get misaligned. And I know I had to correct and course correct myself on my expectations of my community within that community of like, okay, this is my distant relative family community, if that makes sense. And I needed to establish community within my own community or find people that didn't mind coming out to my location to make things easier for me because they could recognize I was overworked and overstressed. And I needed people that recognized that and saw that and valued what I do and wanted to show up. And so that's the difference to me between community and co-regulating. And I think a lot of people, I had to recognize people just wanted to co-regulate with me. And so I would be resentful and just exhausted and just like, I don't want to answer the phone because I already know it's about you. It's about you. That's where I was just like, I need to change my expectations of people. And then I needed to understand what my values were on what was triggering me or offending me to cause me to feel a certain way. And then I had to reassess those relationships. And again, people think that means to cut people off. Absolutely not. That means, okay, this is where our relationship extends to. Our co-regulation looks differently. I know how to self-regulate unless you have something to bring to me, which I always make myself available. I'm always responsive. I always give feedback, advice. I'm always good natured. I just don't depend on you to regulate my emotions. And then finding people that value the same things as you. And that is how you build your community around shared values, not presumed, assumed expectations. I hope everyone enjoys their summer. I hope everyone has a blast. So again, if you're looking for a more like-minded community to share in these discussions, make sure you like, subscribe, share. You can also follow me on Patreon, Instagram, Facebook, and stay tuned for more episodes. Bye, Healing Fam.